Good morning. Happy Wednesday, everybody. My name is Irene Sinaiska. I'm here with Jane Bofsky from Supporting Strategies. And today we just wanted to talk a little bit about some of our practice areas. We're not going to talk about any updates to any laws or any specifics for any of our clients. The reason why we wanted to do this today is because we've been bringing up so many examples of what some of our clients have faced. And we've been talking about some of the updates to whether it was from an employment point of view and some employment laws or a taxation point of view. And we really wanted to talk about what it is that we do in our respective firms and in our respective companies. So I deal with mostly employment matters, but also we deal with a lot of commercial questions that might come in. And so that might be anybody looking to start a company, from a startup to our largest employer, or our largest company would have 30,000 employees. So the reason why employment comes up so much that I've noticed is because once you really set up that licensing and corporate structure, a lot of the times, well, hopefully for the most part, things run rather smoothly. We do see, of course, there could be partner disputes, there could be buyouts, there could be all those various other issues or questions that come up. And we certainly handle all of those as well, but more on a day-to-day basis. As a company grows and as they hire more employees, the most day-to-day questions that we find that we have from our clients have something to do with employment. And mostly where they get in trouble really is from an employment side as well. And so that's why we put a big emphasis on making sure that the employee-employer relationship and the way that the laws are complied with is strictly enforced. And that's because there are, again, so many laws that go directly after the company. Depends on, of course, what state everybody is in, but New York is a very employee friendly state when it comes to enactment of certain laws. And so as an employer, it obviously means that you have a larger burden to ensure that you're complying with every single law. And so again, some of these laws come up sometimes weekly, where we're sending in updates, and we see that our clients are constantly chasing to make sure that they're keeping up with all those changes. So it's really important that that you're constantly monitoring what the laws would be. For example, if you are in New York City, you could be subject to federal employment laws, state employment laws, and city employment laws. And the hope is that they all are going to run parallel, and hopefully they're all going to tell you that you have to do the same thing and put in the same policies and procedures. But as we saw with COVID, that's not always the case. And sometimes we have to navigate between the fact that the federal laws will tell us to do one thing, but then the states come in and enforce something a lot more strict. And we have to make sure that we're updating the policies in accordance with that. And so, Jane, I wanted to ask you, what about you? What does your day-to-day look like?
Sure. Hi, everyone. Thanks, Irene. Well, I actually know Irene and Steve through networking, right? So we come up with a lot of questions. And I feel like in our type of business, I mostly deal with attorneys with employment law, some business litigation, maybe taxation questions, and then mostly CPAs with like tax filings and, auditing for some of the clients. And the day-to-day for us is something like, we say that we could wear a few different hats in the type of business. So for example, we could help with revenue, accounts receivable, payable, HR and payroll administration, bookkeeping, and then the financial reporting. And so I could probably give an example of today's call that I'm going to be having and going through with the business owner. So for example, a lot of times the business owners are asking us for making informative decisions, real-time financial data. Like for example, we're going to be discussing how much money should a business owner have in the bank account to make sure they have enough cash to run payroll. And that could vary because they're payroll might not be consistent, and so it could be different amounts that they have to have. And we definitely don't want to, we want to ensure that they have enough cash so it's not going to bounce, nothing, that people will get paid. And there's a lot of it that goes into that. We have to make sure that everything is categorized on the timely matter, all the expenses. Sometimes we could do some sort of budgeting and estimated planning for their business, but sometimes we just really have to rely on the day to day and ensure that everything is entered. If it's a startup or a growing business or a business that might not have steady cash flow, it's important to look at just monthly, quarterly, weekly, whatever it is that they're comfortable with. And another question that, for example, some of my business owners are asking me is to help with accounts receivable. How do they get paid? How do we send out invoices? Sometimes there's questions on using certain third-party administration, such as Bill.com, and a lot of them could be confused. How do they implement it? How does the money, how do they get paid? For example, sometimes the customer will tell you, oh, I already paid you, but we don't see their bank account. So we do some sort of research and then we find out that they actually sent a check or they didn't register to the right bank account. It's linked to something completely different. There's so many situations where you would think it's like a straightforward answer, but it sometimes requires for us to kind of dig and find where the money went. And then the other side of the expenses and accounts payable, we could help with ensuring, right, that like everything is paid on time, that there's no late assessment, interest, fees, and making sure, again, they have enough cash flow. And I guess the most favorite part of the sort of interpretation of everything, all the work of the day-to-day bookkeeping, is setting up key performance indicators that could help seeing where the business is, what's the gross profit percentages, right? Some people would like to see how much is being paid for consulting and payroll fees. Is that the right percentage, right? So people want to keep it within 20 to 30%. For some businesses, it could be higher. So it's all about analyzing and making sure that everything ties in into one big sort of package of financial information that gives you the day to day, and then you could count on and reduce the future potential risks. I think that kind of gives the whole workflow of what we deal with. So I think we're going to probably end it at that. And again, if anybody has any questions or might have some sort of potential questions for us, we'd be happy to address it. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.